everyone. Welcome to yet another show on the Connect TV. Today we have Mr. Mohammed Thoufiq from the International Center for Strategic Alliances who are organizing the Connected Banking Summit in South Africa, in Africa rather. So welcome to the show, Mr. Thoufiq.
Thank you so much, Kumar.
I believe this is the eighth summit that you are going to organize. Tell us briefly what is the significance of this summit?
Well, the eighth edition of Connected Banking Summit is actually, it actually started in the year 2019, which was then called the Africa Digital Banking Summit Innovation and Excellence Awards. The inception of this summit, it basically started in Ghana. And from then on, we've moved first, second, third annual, and then we moved it to editions and moved it to Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, and different parts of the African continent. Basically, the significance of moving on to the eighth edition of a conference is basically depending on several factors, such as the history of the conference, the significance of the topic, which is of the most importance, that is digital banking, making sure that Africa as a continent is ready and is very much looking forward for digital transformation in terms of the BFSI sector. And we are creating a platform to make sure that all parties involved, all stakeholders, including the government, the regulators, the policy framework makers, also the technology vendors, solution providers, banks, fintechs, insurance companies, all come together to discuss the challenges that they're facing, to share success stories, and all of that, as a result of which, the summit has gained huge significance in the region.
We believe that Africa has, some countries in Africa have been global leaders in terms of digital banking and digital finance in the BFSI sector. So what is the current situation there? How many countries are actually implementing the digital finance?
Well, to be very honest, if you look at Africa today, it's an example of how digital transformation is the way forward. As a continent, most governments are pushing the agenda of digital first. And if you look at countries like Ghana, Ghana is literally the first country in the continent that has achieved 100% financial inclusion. So having said that, most countries are super developed when it comes to their financial technology sector. In fact, countries are like Ghana or even South Africa, and a lot of other countries are in race for CBDC. CBDC stands for central banking digital currencies, right? Like I think in India, the government is now talking about the e-rupee.
Yeah.
Right? So Nigeria already has e-Naira, Ghana already has ECD, right? So therefore, that gives you a very good understanding of how developed and advanced the African continent is, and how the administrations are pushing the digital first agenda and making sure that it's nothing but a huge success stories for all of them.
Mr. Thoufiq, India, takes pride in telling the world that we have the UPI system, then the payments that go digitally on the click of the button on the telephone. I make my transaction, etc. Does that kind of system exist in Africa?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it's very, very true that several African countries have actually been at the forefront of digital banking and fintech innovation, including, the development of payment systems similar to India's unified payments interface, that's UPI or Paytm. One example I would like to give you is the fact that in Kenya, which has been a leader in mobile money innovation with the introduction of M-Pesa, right? In 2007, M-Pesa, which is operated by Safaricom, one of the telecom operators, has become one of the most successful mobile money platforms in the world, with over 20 million users in Kenya alone, by the way. Now, the platform allows users to send and receive money, pay bills, access other financial services, including, using mobile phones. Other than African countries such as Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda have also adopted some, similar mobile money systems. In fact, I think in Ghana, there is another success story with MTN, which is Momo Pay. And then in addition to mobile money, African countries have also been at the forefront of fintech innovation, with several startups developing innovative payment solutions. For example, Flutterwave, a Nigerian fintech company that in fact is called a unicorn, has developed a payment platform that actually enables businesses to accept payments from customers across Africa and around the world. So another example I think that I think of is Paystack. Now, Paystack also is a Nigerian company which has developed a payment gateway that allows businesses to accept payments from customers across various payment methods, including card payments, bank transfers, mobile monies, cryptos, and also some other African countries have also developed payment systems similar to UPI or Paytm. For example, Ghana, the government has launched the Ghana QR code, which is a national payment system that allows us to make payments using a QR code. The system basically enables merchants to accept payments and from customers using mobile money, bank transfers, or card payments in South Africa. The government has launched the application. Sorry?
Much like our Paytm system, I believe.
Absolutely. It's way advanced, and the best part is the government, the regulators, the people who form the policies, the policymakers are very helpful.
This is as far as the monetary transactions are concerned, and as far as the even international transactions are concerned.
Absolutely.
I think that is something where India has to learn lessons from Africa in terms of global transactions. We are not yet into global transactions.
Absolutely, yeah.
What is the status of financial inclusion in Africa?
Well, like I mentioned, the Ghana success story, financial inclusion in Africa has made significant progress in recent years. Like, for example, there is actually a lot of work yet to be done to ensure that all individuals and businesses have access to affordable and appropriate financial products and services. But according to a report I think I read last week by World Bank, in 2017, only 43% of adults in the sub-Saharan African region had a bank account, right? Compared to the global average of 69%. However, the report had also noted that the usage of digital financial services such as mobile money has grown significantly in the region, with more than 21% of adults in sub-Saharan Africa having a mobile money account. In fact, the government and financial services players in Africa are making efforts to promote financial inclusion and expand across to financial products and services. And I must tell you, the Vice President of Ghana, right, Mr. Mohammed Thoufiq, in a conference that happens in Barcelona and Rwanda last year in Kigali, he mentioned at the MWC that Ghana is the first ever country to have achieved 100% financial inclusions. But there are some examples of the kind of efforts that the government and financial services players in Africa are making. Like, for example, the regulatory frameworks. Many governments in Africa have introduced frameworks that enable the provision of digital financial services such as mobile money and e-wallets. These frameworks basically provide the necessary regulatory certainty and oversight to encourage the growth of digital financial services, while also protecting, the consumers. At the same time, there is also something called financial literacy and education, right? The governments and financial services players are also investing in financial literacy and education programs to help individuals and businesses understand the importance of financial management and the benefits of using formal financial services. Of course, now comes the innovation and partnerships, the microfinance institutions playing a very important role. Overall, I must say, Kumar, while progress has been made, financial inclusion in Africa remains a significant challenge, but not something that the governments cannot tackle. That they're doing an amazingly good job, and the players should continue to work together to develop innovative solutions and address the remaining barriers to financial inclusion.
See, in India, we have experimented very successfully at that in a direct payment system. In the sense, there is a job being done by labor contractors, etc. The money does not go through the labor, through the contractors. It is credited directly to the beneficiary, to the labor, to the man who is doing the job. Do you have that kind of a system in Africa?
Of course. Well, I believe that the experiments such as direct remittance payments that are happening in India are very much existing in Africa and around the world, actually, to be honest. In fact, some African countries have already adopted a much more advanced approach to digital payments, particularly in areas of mobile money, like I said, M-Pesa, for example, again, that allow users to send, receive money, pay bills, access other financial services, including insurance, mobile phones. It has also been very successful in Kenya and helped to expand the financial inclusion in the country. Other countries such as Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda have also adopted similar mobile money systems. In addition, you must know several African countries have introduced digital payment platforms that enable direct remittance payments, right? Now, such as Nigeria's Remita. Remita is, helping direct remittance payments. And then there is Ghana's GIPS, GHIPSS. These platforms allow people to send and receive money from anywhere in the world without the need for intermediaries. You don't need a payment solution provider or a platform provider, such as bank or a money transfer operator. No, overall, there is actually a great potential for digital payment innovations, such as direct remittance payments to be implemented in the region to expand financial inclusion and improve access to financial services. However, Kumar, I must tell you, to be successful, these innovations will need to be tailored to the unique needs and challenges, not just in the African context, but every part of the world or every geography, there is a different requirement, right? People, let's say in India, are of different thought process and different requirements in terms of, let's say, the geography they live in, the weather conditions, or how remote the area is, or do they have access to the internet, or do they need a basic phone with a USSD service and all of that. Now, you must also know it is required to support governments of financial institutions and other stakeholders.
Yeah, one of the, I think, greatest challenges as far as cross-border, allowing cross-border money transactions is the money laundering. It's a big challenge today. I think even the Prime Minister Modi and others have spoken eloquently about that. So how do you think that this challenge can be met? Because if cross-border money transaction is allowed, I can send you money, you can send me any amount of money. So how does the regulatory framework come into picture, and how can you actually track the money that is being circulated?
See, basically, AML, now anti-money laundering, and the measures that are taken by the African government is I must tell you, a factor that anti-money laundering measures have become increasingly important for African governments, especially in the recent years, as they seek to combat financial crime and protect the integrity of the financial systems itself. Now, many African countries have basically implemented AML laws and regulations, resilient factors that are come in place. Some of the measures that are taken by the African governments to combat money laundering, like you said, Prime Minister Modi is personally looking into making sure that AML is given the highest of importance. The laws and regulations that are implemented, and regulations that require financial institutions to implement the policies and procedures to identify and report suspicious transactions are very, very strong in the African continent. In fact, the regulatory bodies, many African countries have established regulatory bodies such as financial intelligence units to oversee compliance and AML laws and regulations. Customer due diligence. I think a couple of, I think the top 100 CISOs, that is the Chief Information Security Officers, Chief Risk Officers, and AML officers, come from the African continent around the world, right? You must also know that the customer due diligence, that financial institutions are required to perform customer due diligence to identify their customers and verify their identities. This includes verifying the source of their funds and monitoring the transactions for suspicious activity as well. So overall, the government, the regulatory bodies are taking amazingly good AML measures seriously and implementing a range of policies and regulations to combat money laundering and protect the integrity of the financial system itself.
And quickly, Mr. Thoufiq, how does the ESG play a role? Because I believe there is a separate topic and that has been discussed at the conclave, at the summit. So
Absolutely.
briefly about ESG.
Now, be it financial services, that's BFSI sector, or oil and gas, or any sector today in the world, environmental, social, and governance is very, very important, right? Now, is it possible that the summit, will address the ESG considerations? Of course it is. Now, because it has become increasingly relevant for financial institutions, especially in the recent years after COVID-19, or even prior to that, there is a growing recognition that environmental, social, and governance factors have significant impact on economic performance of every country. Now, financial institutions are therefore focused not only on their own ESG footprint, but also on the ESG risk and opportunities they're subject to as lenders, right? Now, this involves also considering the factors such as climate change, social issues, corporate governance, when assessing the creditworthiness of the borrowers as well. In addition, Kumar, financial institutions are also subject to a range of regulations that require them to address ESG considerations. The governments are working towards making sure that in their operations, like the operations of the financial institution and their lending practices. For example, in Europe, the EU taxonomy regulation requires financial institutions to disclose the extent to which their investments are aligned with environmental objectives. Given the growing impact or the importance of ESG considerations in financial services, it is likely that the summit, not likely, but the summit will definitely address the issue, either through dedicated sessions or as a part of a broader discussion on the future of financial service. The summit will also explore topics such as role of financial institutions in promoting sustainable strategies for managing ESG risk. I think recently KPMG also launched an ESG report for financial institutions, which basically lays again an importance on why ESG is a mandate for not just the BFSI, but all of the sectors around the world.
And finally, do you look forward to India's participation in the summit? Do you expect any?
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you know, India has one of the strongest tech builders around the world in terms of community, and organizations like Comviva, which is Mahindra Comviva, and organizations like, for example, Infosys has their dedicated financial unit for bankers, which is called Finacle, right? So we definitely look forward to a huge participation from India, because now there are a lot of Indian organizations that have started entities in the region, in the African continent. And I think for the past 20 years, most Indian companies are supplying tech to African banks. So we most definitely look forward to India being one of the most important regions that takes part in the summit.
Great talking to you, Mohammed. Wish you all the best for the summit. And we look forward to updated information for our viewers from your network. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kumar. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I look forward to connecting with you right after the event to give you more details on how successful the summit has been once again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening there.
And see you.